Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the
Tonight we are learning
sky.
more about two high school students shot and killed in the loop this afternoon.
Detailing the moments after two teenage boys were gunned down.
The crowd today is insane, with millionaires from all around the nation.
I feel, and I'm feeling good.
Punching an already restrained juvenile.
Since its inception, America has been glorified as the land of equal opportunity, where there is freedom and justice for all. Yet buried beneath the patriotic facade lies a sinister history. It's a narrative of division, of segregation, and of the systematic denial of opportunity. This is the story of redlining. During the New Deal era, government-insured mortgages were introduced to support white homeowners. The government set out maps of different areas and properties that would be the subject of the above-mentioned loans. These maps were color-coded, with each color corresponding to the loan-worthiness of the neighborhoods in the U.S. The color red was attributed to the neighborhoods that were deemed not worthy of inclusion in the home ownership programs. Most of the neighborhoods marked in red were predominantly inhabited by minorities. Redlining was a state-sponsored system of segregation resulting in disinvestment and decline. This decline affected infrastructure, housing, quality of life, poverty, unemployment, racial segregation, and crime rates. It's a testament to the darkest corners of our past, where lines were drawn not just on maps, but in the lives of millions.
That we, the black people of America, and we, the black people of this city,
Following the civil rights movement and death of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968, the Fair Housing Act was passed. Change was slow to come. By the 1960s, home ownership rates for white Americans had surged to over 60%, while rates for African Americans remained below 40%. One of the most compelling examples of historic inequality is Rochester, New York, where the effects of redlining shaped the very fabric of the city's communities. To tell you more about this, here's Kesha James.
Keisha James.
Sorry about that. In Rochester, the black population grew by 300% between 1950 to 1960.
But at this time in 1934, it wasn't just Black people. It was also Jewish, Italian, Irish, Polish people. And so if they lived in a neighborhood, it would also get rated either the yellow coloring, which was definite declining, or the red, which was hazardous. The Joseph Avenue area was highly Jewish area. I think it was like 40% Jewish and Italian, and then it was 10% Black. And so it got rated hazardous by the government because of the pseudoscience of eugenics and the belief that, there was people who were superior, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, and then everyone else was inferior to that.
Minorities were only allowed to live in two areas, the 3rd and 7th Ward. They faced harassment and violence if they attempted to live beyond these boundaries.
Do you think a Negro family moving here will affect the community as a whole?
Definitely.
In what way?
I think that, the property values will immediately go down if they are allowed to move in here in any numbers.
Even prominent figures like Frederick Douglass faced protests and arson when attempting to move to suburban neighborhoods. After World War I, traditional methods of segregation became less effective, leading to the emergence of racial covenants as new tools to maintain racial division in Monroe County. These racial covenants were supported by large businesses like Eastman Kodak Company and Wegmans. The effects of redlining impact every aspect of life for the people who live in these communities. Taxes from home ownership fund education, leading to significant disparities in funding and quality in school systems. Education is not the only area to suffer. Racism drives illness and early death, with Black individuals facing disproportionate rates of illness and mortality. Black mothers and babies experience higher rates of maternal and infant mortality and preterm birth. Death during childbirth is 51% higher for Black women. Infant mortality is 214% higher than white women, and preterm birth is 77% more likely than white women.
For 30 years, white people were allowed to build generational wealth with home ownership, where Black people didn't have that same opportunity. And so you're getting a government handout that says a home that you're getting it for the fraction of the price, you can now sell that home for quadruple that amount. You have equity in that home, you can invest in your businesses, you can send your kids to college debt-free, and then you can reinvest that money, where you have Black people that are renting because they can't get a mortgage from the bank because of it being illegal, or because, of the law. And so the impact of like 30 plus years of Black and brown people being held back from generational wealth, from the quote unquote American dream.
It is imperative to confront our own beliefs and educate ourselves from a young age about the historical impacts of systematic oppression, empowering future generations to address racism head-on and build a more equitable society. But education alone is not enough. It's time for tangible action to address the deep-seated wealth disparities rooted in centuries of white supremacy. We must commit to wealth redistribution.
I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million.
Dismantling zoning laws and supporting Black and brown-led organizations that empower communities to control their own resources. This is not just about individual actions. It's about collective commitment. We must each make a commitment to combat racial discrimination in all its forms. The fight against redlining is far from over. It's a pursuit for impartiality and autonomy. It's a stand that we all must take. Together, we can create a future where justice, equality, and opportunity are not just ideals, but realities for all.